Hi there, MarkVHansen here, and I want to talk to you about a topic that you're going to like, and I want you to do it with a little bit of mirth and a little bit of fun and a little absolute joy, and it's called You Are Full of It. Before we're done, I want you to make it into an affirmation. I am full of it. Now, it sounds derogatory, and where I got it originally was I was traveling around the world doing giant talks with one of the most famous ministers who will go unnamed because it was his title, and his wife would never let him do it, and we'd sit in airplane seats in first class and just chat about it and chortle and go off, and he was a very funny man. And what it means is you're full of potential. You're full of wisdom. You're full of joy. You're full of destinies that have gone as yet unfulfilled. You're full of more than you even know that you're full of. And what I'm here to do is press the requisite stimulus, and your success, your achievement, your abilities are parted from you by the flimsiest of screens. And what happens is we're saying, hey, wait a second, let's wake up. And you know that God's name is I am. When Moses said, well, who do I say send me? Say that I am sent you, meaning that whatever you add to I am, you become instantly, constantly, and if you repeat it enough times into your mind and soul, permanently. So I'm saying, why not say I'm awake? Now I'm awake to the wisdom in me. Now it may be released with intuition, insight, hunches, assumptions, concepts, theories. It doesn't matter how it's released, it matters that you release it, because every one of us has over 50,000 thoughts a day, psychologists teach us. All I'm asking you to do is start programming your mind to money-making ideas, because you're full of money-making ideas that have money-making money-making money, and just what you got to do is wake up to it. Now remember, I went bankrupt in 1974, lost everything about that fast. You know, the oil embargo came and suddenly plastic wasn't available. I built at Wall Street Racquet Club, botanical gardens, aviaries, houses, everything out of PVC, polyvinyl chloride, plastic at the wrong time. Now that was my best, worst experience. And we'll talk later about adversity because there's advantage in every adversity. Napoleon Hill says, every adversity has a seed of equivalent or greater benefit, but it's yours to pull out. And I'm going to give you a lot of little stories, a lot of little insights, a lot of stuff that you've probably not thought of about how you're full of it. And the guy who traveled around the country and did one talk 6,000 times, because either, in the speaking business, we either say change audiences or change talks, but this one guy did one talk 6,000 times. Dr. Russell Conwell made enough money to form Temple University, which started as a Bible spiritual school and then has expanded into a great university in Pennsylvania. The point is, he did this talk that said, look, every one of us has acres of diamonds inside us. Now, doesn't that fit what Christ said? The kingdom of heaven is within. Seek first the kingdom of awareness, kingdom of understanding, kingdom of wisdom, kingdom of joy, kingdom of fun, kingdom of having more ideas than you can harvest. Because the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Why do you want to be in want? You don't want to be in lack or be lackluster. You want to be full of joy and full of spirit and shine and take your little radiant hat off and just let it all gush out of you because you've got infinite potential. So Russell Conwell did that talk. A lady sitting in his talk heard him, and she was the assistant, today we call the secretary to the President of the United States, who at that time was Abe Lincoln. And she used to have to pin papers together and stick her finger and bleed all over the paper. And so she said, there's got to be a better way. Dr. Conwell said, I got acres of diamonds. All I got to do is have one idea and I can become as rich as I want. One idea, one thought, one breath of God in the right direction. And if you start saying, I'm under the favor of God, I'm full of the favor of God, which she started saying to herself, She came up with the idea of the paperclip. And if you go downtown Philadelphia today, there is a paperclip I stood in front of and took a picture that goes 6 stories high, dedicated to that one woman's ingenuity, which made her a fortune, got lots of distributors making money, lots of other people making money, right? And once an idea is had, it multiplies to other ideas. Some of you have listened to me before know I talk about compounding of money, which is you know, Einstein said is the 8th wonder of the world. But I'm saying bigger than that, the 9th wonder of the world, I'm saying is compounding of ideas, compounding of thinking, right? You know, and we're teaching in our Ask book, Ask the Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny, is that if you ask the right questions, think the right thoughts, you meet the right people to get the right results right here, right now, and you are full of it. You're going to be full of the joy of working. Like yesterday, I had a lovely, lovely man call me, and he wants me to do something with him, and he's got a great idea, and I think it'll harvest for the world and really take us forward with acceleration. It's a new piece of software. I got to admit, I never saw anything like it before, and it's going to be good, and I'll be able to tell you about it in the future. But what he did was, first of all, he was in a car accident, broke his back, broke his pelvis, broke his neck. He was 8 days in a coma. They didn't think he'd come back. He came out of a coma. Now he's a really excessively bright guy. They had to re-break his neck 6 months later. But when he's in the hospital, he's listening to a set of my tapes called Dreams Don't Have Deadlines. Now I've got 38 major sets of tapes out there, that a lot of which are becoming books, which is a whole nother thing. This is that compounding of compounding. But this young man discovered goal setting. He discovered what I teach is the most important books to read after you get done whatever your academics are going to be. There's 2 kinds of education, academic education and self-help action education. The second is more important at some levels than the first. Once you know what you want, once you know what your destiny is, if you set some goals, goal setting is goal getting. And we've taught you before that you got to figure out what you want. That's the critical, right? The thing about asking is ask yourself, what do I want in all the dimensions of your life? You just don't want money. That makes life a heck of a lot better, right? The joke, of course, is that if money won't make you happy, you just don't know where to shop. Well, that's a cute joke, but that's not it. Because there are a lot of people that have a lot of money that I've met, billionaires that are hollow inside because they aren't full of spirit, which is what we're going to talk about in a second. But this kid said, this is what I could do to fulfill my destiny and help you get to your goal of, I want to source and serve. You know, the goal that Dr. Demanda set for all of us is, what are you going to do to positively affect 1 billion people during the next decade? Every one of us, once you ask a question, you are a teleological, a goal-setting, goal-seeking, goal-achieving mechanism. You will get the goals that you go for. That's the way that it works. So you got to set high, lofty, and inspired goals. And all the research says that only 1% of us in the world basically have real goals. No, I said New Year's goal, I'm going to lose weight. I said New Year's goal, I'm going to be better to my wife. I said New Year's goal, I'm going to stop using profanity. I'm going to do blah, 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 blah. And within 30 to 60 days, totally out of your mind. I'm saying you got to be full of it. You got to figure out what your goal is, and then there's lots of ways to do it. I say you put it on a 3x5 card, you put it in your wallet, you wrap it in a $100 bill or a fake $1 million bill, an old candy wrapper of $1 million bill if you want. Because if you think prosperous, you feel prosperous, you get prosperous, because you got to think, feel, and believe prosperity to be full of prosperity. Because if you think negative impoverishment thoughts, or you dread that you can't pay your bills, you're going to get more bills to dread not paying. Whereas if you say, I have got money gushing to me, flowing to me, and I'm full of money. I've got money making money, and money's coming to me new, easy, effortless ways because I just keep having new ideas. Like that little lady just came up with one idea, the paperclip. This guy came up with one software that's going to change the world, right? And I'm going to talk to you about more people like that. And sometimes it is exactly in front of you that you're full of it and you don't even see it. During the gold rush of 1848, the gold, everyone was rushing from the east to the west because there was gold in our hills in California and Nevada, and silver and gold and all the resources, and it was going to be free. All you had to do is stake your claim, get some people to dig it, and then become vastly rich. Well, one of the guys that went out there happened to be a tent maker. You know his name. I've worked for the company multiple times, been to the mansion down in Mexico, which is just really extraordinary, called Sonaviv. Anyhow, Levi Strauss was making these tents out of canvas that were water repellent, water resistant. And he knew how to do rivets at levels that nobody else had done rivets. He had invented the technology. Finally, one of the old gold miners that were getting holes in their pants all the time said, hey, look, why don't you, Mr. Levi Strauss, make a pair of pants out of that same waterproof stuff that would be resistant to us climbing rocks, walking around rocks, getting ripped apart by rocks. We've got the boots that last, but we need the pants. Well, Levi Strauss created pants, and then he couldn't create enough pants because everybody needed those kind of pants, and he started making money. Now, at a bigger concept, I got to tell you, one of my dear friends who, lives in Indonesia, where I've been to his place a couple times, is Roger Hamilton. And Roger Hamilton said the whole gold rush was only worth $300 million. The city of San Francisco has a tax base now of $3 billion, but one university coming out of that gold rush was called Stanford, and some of you don't know it, but Stanford, I'm going to talk about that next, is that he came out of that gold rush, built Stanford University, and now the students of Stanford, which he was going to make it better than Harvard, which we'll talk to that in a second, but the people that have graduated Stanford, who runs Silicon Valley, as all of you probably know, make $3 trillion a year. Remember, state of mind creates state of result. If you think poverty, you get poverty. If you decide to go where the gold rush is, go where the money is, and decide to make part of it yours by finding a need and filling it. Or as an entrepreneur, I teach entrepreneurship is find a problem, and there's tons of them. There's never been more than right now. Fix the problem, scale it, mean take it to the height, the depth, the breadth of what you can do with it, and then make a vast, fast cash flow out of it. Now, before I go back to Stanford, let me just say my father wanted my brothers, I've only got brothers, they're 4 boys, wanted us all to take over his little elite bakery. He was a great Danish baker, I mean phenomenal. He just was superb. But I kept saying, Dad, I helped you in the bakery, but I'm a white glove guy. I don't want to do the bakery. If I had taken over the bakery, knowing what I know about that next word we just said about scaling, because I'm full of scaling ideas, you take an idea and you scale it to, what did Peter Diamandis say, to 1 billion people in the next decade. Scaling. You take it and you logarithmically, geometrically, exponentially accelerate it. I would have created something like Enneman's Bakery. I would have made one of the biggest bakery chains in the world because I'm full of that kind of thinking. I did a whole set of tapes on that you may know, and then we'll go back to Stanford, how to think bigger than you ever thought you could think. And very shortly I've updated that, and it comes out next year, soon here, that in this next year, in May, 2021, it is going to be extraordinary, and it's going to be a book that I've updated and brought update, how to think bigger than you ever thought you could think. Because my question in the Ask book is the size of your thinking determines the size of your result. If you say, well, I'm just a little person, I just am on a salary and I can never make enough to make ends meet, you will run out of money before you run out of every month. I want you to have excess money, surplus money. I want you to be full of money. I want you to know you shall not want. I want to make sure you understand your cup runneth over, because there's no limit in universe. Universe is rich. There's $4 trillion circulating around the world each and every day, and it's up to you to decide what part of that you're going to make it. And it's up to your mind to harness that, because you want to use your mind, not your behind. It's okay to be in service. It's okay to have a job, but remember, I've taught always the acronym job means just over broke. I want you to have a real MBA, a millionaire's bank account that keeps self-replenishing. These are words you got to keep repining and re-opinioning in your mind. I'm going to have self-replenishing wealth. I am full of it. I am full of wealth. I am full of abundance. I am full of money. I have great money-making ideas that I can harvest. I am full of building a dream team that is unstoppable. Now, long ago, I wrote the book and story for one of our Chicken Soup for the Soul books about Stanford. Mr. Stanford, is one of the four guys that built the railroads. And the movie you want to watch on Netflix, of course, is The Men Who Built America and how they did it. And what happens is Stanford's one of those guys that built the railroads. Then he owned a lot of land in California. And he went to Harvard University because his son had died, unfortunately. And he said, he came in to talk to the president of the university, and because he was in blue jeans and had dirt under his fingernails, metaphorically speaking, and looked like just a laborer, they let him sit in the outer office for 8 hours, which fried him and his wife, right? You got to be careful never to disrespect somebody. You want to make sure you're full of it so you can see the fullness of spirit, the fullness of ideas, the fullness of thinking, the fullness of wisdom in every other person. It's only by you being full that you can see the fullness in another. This is one of those little sub-bonus points. Well, at 5:30, the president comes out and meets this guy thinking he's a waste of time and says, okay, what do you want? He said, look, my son died and I want to build a building here for him and I want to name it Stanford. And he said, what would that cost? It was like tens of thousands of dollars. He said, what would it cost to build this whole campus? He said, maybe $1 million. Remember, $1 million then was a real million. $1 million then was like 100 million today. We're talking about long ago, far away. Stanford gets back on the choo-choo train and goes all the way to California, has all this land, and says, I'm going to build a university better than Harvard, and I'm going to call it Stanford. I'm going to dedicate it to my son, and we're going to hire the best teachers at Harvard, the best teachers at Cambridge, the best teachers in Bhavan's College out of India, the best teachers from literally around the world, and we're going to have the most extraordinary, avant-garde, futuristic, great university ever. Now, what did we say? He was full of the Spirit because he had been hurt at his heart that he wanted to do something great for his son in the memory of his son, but he got besmirched. And remember, the line out of Joeseph in any color coat that you probably know is, what you meant for my harm, God meant for my good. And Joeseph was always full of the Spirit, even though his brothers had put him in a pit and then sold him into slavery, and then he gets innocently put away by Potiphar's wife and is in jail for 13 years, but reads the future prophesied, and then suddenly the king can't, the prophet, not king or prophet, we're talking about the Pharaoh has this reoccurring dream, and he can't understand it, and Potiphar, who's his right hand at the time, goes to the jail because he knows that our friend Joeseph and Joeseph in his many-colored coat know how to interpret dreams, and he goes and says, what happened? And he said, well, it means you're going to have 7 years of feast, more than enough. And then 7 years of famine. So Pharaoh, during the 7 years of feast, you don't have to save 10%, which is the spiritual law, but you got to save 20% because it's going to allow you to rule the whole Middle East at that time. Well, the Pharaoh was so caught up in this great idea, he said, I am making you second in command. Now, backwards in the story, Joeseph in the many-colored coat, he had the many-colored coat from his father, was the youngest son, but he had a vision. He was a visionary. He had a vision that someday he would rule the world, and now he comes to rule it. And when his brothers are starving back in Israel and come and beg for food, after he teases them a little bit, he finally says that line, what you meant for my harm, God meant for my good. Well, the same thing here with every one of the stories. That woman pinned herself, and it looked like that was harm to bleed all over those things, but it stimulated her to come up with a brand new, bigger, better, stronger idea called a paperclip. We have talked about Levi Strauss coming and making tents, but there are plenty of people making tents, but nobody was making clothes, pants for the miners that could not rip, could not tear, would be riveted together, would be long-lasting, would be inexpensive, right? You take the problem, find it, fix it, scale it, and make a fortune with it. You make everybody better off and no one worse off. Joseph's many-colored coat saw that someday he'd rule the nations. He didn't mind all that terrible stuff that happened to him. He had his vision clear, which when you're full of it, you got to have your vision clear. Stanford, once he had his vision that a university didn't cost any more than he had personally and he could fund it, then he said, wait a second, if I'm going to have a vision, I want the best vision. I want the best school. I want the most beautiful campus. And if you haven't been to Stanford campus, you need to put it on your goal list. It is a beautiful place. I've talked there several times. The last time I talked, I got the happiest man in America award. So that was really exciting. So the point is, and Stanford's a great school, and we've got a lot of friends there right now that are teaching, professing, learning, and growing and expanding. But it's all because this guy had the courage to do it. He had the vision to do it, just like Levi Strauss had the vision to do it. She had the vision to make the paperclip. Russell Conwell had the vision to build Temple University, the vision to do 6,000 talks until he had enough gravity to do it, right? Because he was full of the dream, full of the idea. Each of these people have been full of the idea. And I'm saying that you are full of more ideas than you know. But now let's distill it and summarize it. You are full of it, but you've got to be positive. You've got to say, hey, I've got wisdom. I am wisdom. Remember, whatever you add to I am, you become. So I am wisdom. I am the fulfillment of my potential. I am generating money-making ideas. I am spiritually alive, tuned in, turned on, exquisitely excited. I am studying spiritual literature. I am affirming the best for myself, the best for my family, the best for my company, the best for my city, state, country, the best for the world. I am here to contribute. I am going to do what Dr. Peter Diamandis says at Singularity University. I am going to figure out how to help 1 billion people in the next decade. And if you made just $1 by sourcing and serving 1 billion people, you would be a billionaire. Now, you'll probably make more than that because once it starts, the flow is there. You are here to be full of it. You were born full of it. Your mind keeps recycling. It's full of it. You have the ability to be full of it with self-replenishing wealth, self-replenishing love, self-replenishing relationships, self-replenishing fun, self-replenishing joy, self-replenishing excitement, just like the whole universe is set up to source and serve you once you go from the lower sense of self to the higher sense of self and recognize that you are full of it. And God is the source of all, and you are made in the image and likeness of God. And you are here full of creativity, capability, and you are here to contribute mightily, magnificently, enjoyably, and with the excitement and passion of your heart. And I hope you have more than you've ever even imagined, because you, my friend, are full of it.